The game I'd like to present to you all now is an absolute gem from chess history, and it's the game Bogliabov versus Alekhine. And apart from being admired by millions all over the world and being taught and shown in a number of different places, the reason I'd actually like to show you this game is because it is one of Alekhine's own personal favourites. And despite not winning the Brilliancy Prize in the tournament, this game really is special in many ways. And I think it's a demonstration of Alekhine's superb tactical and combinative ability. And to beat Bogliabov in such a humiliating way with the black pieces, and also Bogliabov, for all of you who don't know, was one of the leading grandmasters of the time. He challenged Alekhine for the World Championships on at least a couple of occasions. For him to lose in the way he did, to be outplayed all over the board, literally on every flank, was something that Alekhine was extremely proud of. So let's have a look at the game. And it started with d4, and Alekhine played f5. Now, he didn't play this move often, but to give you a background as to what was happening in the tournament at the time, Alekhine needed to win this game in order to clinch first place on his own. So he was willing to fight and even play something which was certainly back then regarded as dubious. Even nowadays, the Dutch defence, as most of you will know, is not black's most solid defence to d4, but it's certainly double-edged. And that's what Alekhine needed to mix things up and try and win, so he could win the tournament outright. So we have a main line, and here on move 4, bishop b4 check was played. Actually, Alekhine liked this move, bishop b4 check. He played it in a number of different variations, but here, instead of bishop b4 check, bishop e7 is the modern move, just developing the bishop more modestly and getting ready to castle. But after bishop b4 check, bishop d2, again, black can just retreat the bishop to e7 and claim that the bishop on d2 is actually misplaced. Instead, Alekhine took this off. Now, you don't really see this very much nowadays, because instead of knight takes d2, which is inaccurate, as Bogliabov played, queen takes d2 is the more modern move, where white instead looks to develop the knight to its more natural square on c3, and of course the knight on c3 controls more central squares than on d2, so it's a bit passive on d2. So after this, Alekhine played knight c6, attacking the d4 pawn. White defended, both sides castled, d6 by Alekhine. This is a typical move in these variations. Black looks to develop this bishop on c8 and also play the central push with e5. This is important. So queen b3, this is a good move by Bogliabov. He develops the queen and poses a few questions as to exactly how black is going to carry out this plan of e5, because now the queen and king are on the same diagonal. And here, king h8 was played by Alekhine. Now, the big question is, does white have a good move to really fight for the initiative in the centre? Can you see what that might be? Well, Bogliabov played the move queen c3, but he may have missed a good opportunity. Of course, queen c3 makes a lot of sense in many ways. He not only keeps the queen on the same diagonal as the king, but also prepares the launch of the b-pawn, gaining space on the queen side. This is a typical strategy in these positions. Instead, though, d5 on move 10 was a very strong move. And the point is that white disrupts black's plans and ruins his structure in the centre. So if, let's say, black moves the knight to a5, white can attack the knight. Black would have to defend with a move like c5. But now knight g5 is very strong. And white is having a lot of pressure on this e6 point. And in fact, after a move like e takes d5, simply recapturing. And with black's knight out on the rim, on the edge, white's knight is hopping into e6. And then if it were to be exchanged with bishop takes e6, d takes e6 would allow this bishop to be opened up. And that is a lot of play for white. So that would have been a strong continuation. Well, queen c3 was played instead, and Alekhine played e5. e3 was then played to support the centre, and now a5 by Alekhine. This is an important move preventing the b4 push. b3. Note that if white plays a3 immediately to prepare b4, then black has got the standard reply a4. And this is a problem for white because now he can never get in b4 because of en passant. And that's exactly what white doesn't want. So b3 first is a slow way to do it because now if a4, b4, and you can prepare with b3, a3 and b4 as we will see. In fact, queen e8 was played and now a3. It's worth noting that queen e8 is an important move in all of these variations because not only does it defend a pawn on e5, but also threatens to come out to the very aggressive square on h5. And in fact, the queen on h5 in these Dutch structures is a very important piece and enables a strong attack. So here after a3, well, of course, Alekhine didn't need to be asked to play queen h5, especially given his style. Remember, he was a very attacking-minded player. He liked the complexities of long combinations and was an absolute genius when it comes to this. There was nobody who really matched Alekhine's combinative ability and strength. So we reach queen h5 and now h4 was played by Boglibov. But the big question is, could he not just have won a pawn on e5? Have a think about that one. Well, with the queen indirectly attacking e5 here, and the knight as well, it seems white can win a whole pawn after d takes e5. But if you've looked at it, it doesn't quite work because d takes e5, knight takes e5, knight takes e5, queen takes e5, runs into knight g4, and black threatens both the queen on e5 and checkmate on h2, and there is no way to parry both threats. So white is in a lost position here. So after queen h5, h4 was played, and we reach the end of the opening phase of this game. Join me in part 2 of this game to see exactly how Alekhine proceeded from this position, and you will be in for a treat and one of the best ever Alekhine games. So come and join us.